up, everybody?
Oh, it's the Tuesday Night Spectacular, the 5-minute countdown. We will be going live here shortly with all the news and notes of the NFL this week, recapping week number 2 in the NFL and previewing week number 3. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Here we go. Good evening, guys.
Oh, it's just me right now. Come on, Chris. Let's
What's
go.
up, everybody? How we
Good
doing?
evening. Happy Tuesday night to everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Spectacular. Chris, how you been this weekend?
I've been pretty good. Unfortunately, not a good weekend for me, but there was a lot of good games, a lot of exciting things, and I think we all learned a lot of new things that we didn't see coming. I think because there's a couple teams that we weren't too high on that really shown that they might be actually pretty good.
Yeah, and we're going to do the entire breakdown of week number 2, the recap here for all the games in week number 2. And I think that if we do it that way, we can, comment to discuss the different things that happened and the news and notes for each of the games going forward if we just go ahead and get right to it.
Am I coming in blurry on your end, or is that just my end?
You look fine.
Okay.
I don't know. You might be a little blurry. Have you cleaned your camera lately? Get you a little something and rub across it there. See if that fixes you up. High quality show. You look a little better.
I think I might have too much light on. Hang on.
Okay. All right. Ready when you are here with the presentation. Going to, of course, talk about the Thursday night game first, which when we did our video at the time, I had thought, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. And I said, I like the Dolphins because, their running game sets up all of the play action passing. They've got, all these great wide receivers that are there that really have 3 running backs that could do the job. And, I was concerned about Buffalo's defense. And then when, as the week progressed, we found out Raheem Mostert wasn't going to play in the game. David&Chris had a ankle injury and was, game time decision. And so that really concerned me. I started looking at some of the statistics. I know that Buffalo played against Arizona and they were down early, but then they really started to come to life. I changed my pick for the Picks with David, segment and went with the Buffalo Bills. And I'm real glad I did because Buffalo beat their doors off. And then, of course, the bad news in the game, Tua Tagovailoa goes down with another concussion, Chris.
Yeah. It's a shame. It sucks to see somebody because, it was a good hit, clean hit. It didn't look like it was going to be as bad as it was.
Jerking of his neck. It's the jerking of his neck. I would say that due to the concussions that he has, he is, fragile now. I'm not saying that he needs to retire, but they put him on injured reserve today, which means he will not be, starting the next 4 weeks. They've got the guy from Kansas State who played, Skylar Thompson, who played at the end of that game. And he played in their playoff game a couple years ago when Tua couldn't play. And he did okay. But he obviously wasn't prepared to come in and fill in against Buffalo this last week. I don't know if he'll be the starter in this upcoming week. But they did sign off of the practice squad from the Baltimore Ravens, Tyler Huntley, who spent the preseason with the Cleveland Browns and had been a previous Baltimore Raven, but they signed him directly to their 53 by taking him off the practice squad in Baltimore. I don't know how long it'll take him to get up to speed with their system, but obviously they know that they're not going to be without Tua now for the next 4 weeks. while he takes time to alleviate his symptoms, make a decision on his future, et cetera, et cetera. But, that's the deal with game number 1 on Thursday.
What's up, Ron? You didn't miss much. We're just getting started.
Yeah, you haven't missed much. Yep, we're just getting started here. Surprise of the day. I got to be honest, okay? This killed my survivor pool on Yahoo, on Sleeper, on DraftKings. There's no way that Baltimore loses to the Raiders in Baltimore. They stopped throwing the ball to Zay Flowers. Lamar Jackson heard it all week that he was taking off and running too much, and so then he didn't run at all. And, he's just in his own head, okay? Lamar Jackson is in his own head. He's listened to it his entire career. He either runs too much, he puts himself in harm's way, or, he doesn't run at all. And he's not throwing to the guys he should be throwing to. They did not run the ball enough, with Derrick Henry in the second half. And they didn't throw the ball to Zay Flowers enough in the second half. And somehow the Raiders come away with a victory in Baltimore. Did you see this game at all, Chris? Did you watch it?
I did not get to watch this one, but I will say
my buddy Kevin got YouTube TV, and he hooked me up, and so we watched this game along with the Vikings, San Francisco, the Dallas, New Orleans, and I'm trying to remember what the other game was here that we were watching. Let me look here. Oh, Detroit and Tampa Bay. That was the 4-pack that we were watching. And I kept seeing, I'm like, what is going on in Baltimore? They just kept hanging around, and Baltimore's defense kept letting them get into field goal range. It was crazy.
Unfortunately, I was at my buddy's, and he had Sling TV. He's switching back to YouTube next month. So we watched the game on Sling TV. I had YouTube TV on my phone. I should probably put it on my phone so I could have paid attention to the Raiders game. But I will say this about Baltimore, and I think I mentioned it earlier in the preseason or in the offseason, is there's another thing I think there's a problem with the Baltimore is I think they're an easy team to figure out now. And the only why I say that is because last year and the previous years, Lamar Jackson ran a lot and threw. Also, the running backs ran a lot too. Now you put Henry back there. What does that tell? That tells everything about your offense. Your quarterback.
Well, they've always been a run-first offense. The problem I have with Derrick Henry in this offense is he can't run out of the shotgun. Okay. He's used to getting, when the quarterback's under the center and they go to hand it off to him, he gets a head of steam running towards where he thinks the hole's supposed to be. And that's how he gets his, initial burst to 3 yards or so. And then, he either takes a hit and goes down, or he's able to stiff arm people and get out in the open field because he breaks through the linebackers and he's into the secondary. Then that, he gets a head of steam doing that. And it's not the same way he's used to running the football. He does not run the ball. Now, he had some yardage. He came alive in the game, compared to week 1. But, it's just too little too late. You're running the football, when you need to be throwing the ball. And they throw the ball when they need to be protecting it. And instead of protecting it, they're not protecting it. That is the whole story for this game. The Raiders, I thought Zamir White was basically going to be, the lead back for them. They brought over Alexander Madison from the Vikings for the Raiders, and he is getting the bulk of the carries. He's getting the majority of, the touchdowns and everything. He was a fumble machine last year for the Vikings, but he's been holding on to the ball thus far. Minshew's doing what he can to pick up, first downs. Brock Bowers has caught a lot of passes as the tight end, been wide open, and, they surprised me. I think that the Raiders can win the way that they have been, playing offense. If they play offense the way they did against the Ravens and their defense is able to hold up the way that they did, the Raiders can be around a 500 team this year. I really think that. When we skip to the next game, your boy Jim Harbaugh, they're not letting Herbert throw it all over the yard. They're handing the ball off to J.K. Dobbins. They're playing defense against a team that's absolutely toothless on offense, and that's the Carolina Panthers. So much so that this, yesterday it was announced that after only 2 weeks, new head coach Dave Canales has benched Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton. And all of the media and everything outlets are talking about how, this means he's done. He's done in Carolina. They did not do with him what other teams have done. And that is sit a guy who needs a little time. I think he was overdrafted. Me and you, I think you liked Young over C.J. Stroud. I loved C.J. Stroud. These two quarterbacks are going to be linked forever. Right now, everybody's labeling Bryce Young as a bust. But he needs time to sit on the bench, learn behind a veteran quarterback with no pressure to start, and, get his wits about him, because basically he is gun shy now. They did to him last year in Carolina what the Texans did to David Carr when he was the number one pick. He got sacked to death, and now he expects to get hit every single time, and he's shell-shocked. The Chargers looked impressive. They went from the West Coast to the East Coast and won a game. That's hard to do, even against, what's probably the worst team in the NFL. But I thought the Chargers played well. They did just enough to win the game if they would have been playing against a better opponent. And this is the Jim Harbaugh formula. Play defense, run the football, pick up first downs when you have to, even if you got an elite quarterback, Chris.
Exactly. Nothing's going to change about Jim. He's going to coach the same style. He's just basically bringing the Michigan offense to the NFL. The Panthers, and I was completely wrong. Obviously I went off the statistics of Ohio State quarterbacks and that playing out in the NFL when I said that. But I don't think Young's done out of his career, but I'm not going to sit here and say it wouldn't be a bad idea for him to get out of Carolina. And the only why I say that is I'm really starting to believe that it's becoming so toxic over there. Just because of the owner and all the bad years just keep piling up. I feel like it's starting to become where he might not be able to recover in Carolina. Not saying he can't sit back and learn. I mean, that is a great thing to do, is let him sit back behind Andy Dalton and learn. I love that ideal, but I'm not going to sit there and say, regardless if he learns a lot behind Andy Dalton or not, he's still going to have to fight all that pressure because the fans at this point are going to ride him every mistake he does. I mean, look at Daniel Jones in New York right now. Look how bad it's getting. You know what I mean?
And we'll get to that. So, moving on, we talked about it last year. We talked about it briefly in the offseason this year. I was all in on the Saints last season. And this offseason, I was like, man, what a disappointment that team was. I didn't draft any of their players in any of my fantasy leagues. I didn't have any faith that they were going to turn things around. Dennis Allen's on the hot seat as the head coach. I had him listed as one of the coaches that was probably going to get fired at the end of this year. But Clint Kubiak comes in as offensive coordinator and has just turned this thing around. I know they played the Panthers in week 1, but you don't go into Dallas and kick their ass like that unless you got you a real team. And they do. People have always underestimated Derek Carr. People are saying that Alvin Kamara is getting old. They had a toxic wide receiver in Michael Thomas. He's long gone. Chris Olave is the head dog, when it comes to the number of catches. And this Rashid Shaheed, his speed blows the doors off of people. The defense is playing well. And the only reason the Cowboys got 19 points is because the Saints kept scoring, which gave the Cowboys more opportunities to put up some numbers.
They scored on every offensive. If I'm not mistaken, they scored on every offense possession of the game.
Well, they scored every possession last week, and they definitely scored in every possession in the first half this week. I'm not sure they scored in every possession, but because at a certain point I was like, okay, and moved to another game because that one was over. It was over early,
Yeah.
And so, my concern here is that as good as the Cowboys looked defensively in week 1, they had no answers in week 2.
No.
The offense, it just feels like that they had the one spectacular long play to CeeDee Lamb where he avoided the defenders and took off and scored. The rest of the time, a lot of nickel and diamond down the field, couldn't get any big chunk yardage. The running game is not doing very well. I just feel like they can't run the ball with authority, and it could have something to do with the fact that they've got 2 rookie starting offensive linemen, the center, and, I think it's the right tackle. It might be the left tackle, but I think it's the right tackle. They got Guyton from Oklahoma, and I forget the name of the center. But they're two rookies on the offensive line. You're going to struggle against pressure defenses, and that's what the Saints have. They got a veteran pressure defense.
Yeah. No, kudos to the Saints. I'm going to give them their flowers because, I was really hard on them in the offseason leading up to preseason predictions. I didn't think the Saints were going to do much this year. I thought it was going to be another shit show. And in the first 2 weeks, they've made me eat my words, and I'll give them their flowers. And we'll see how good they're going to be in the weeks coming up here.
All right. Before you lash out and go crazy, I got a few points to make about the Tampa Bay-Detroit game. I thought that as aggressive as a coach as Dan Campbell has been, he backed off on his aggression in this game at a couple of times. I think that literally I felt like he was intimidated at one point to go for it when he should have gone for it. They had a timing problem, at the end of the first half. And, when they did manage to work their way down the field and show what they had, they didn't always capitalize with touchdowns. They ended up with field goals. I thought the defense played well enough to win. They only gave up 20 points, but the offense was a problem. Have at it, my friend.
Yeah, I'm not sweating this game. I said Tampa. I said it in preseason coming up that Tampa was going to be another playoff team, and they were going to be good. And guess what? Baker and the Bucs have shown that in the first 2 weeks. Baker did not make it easy. It was a very good game. It sucks for my outcome. I did not want to see that outcome. But, at the end of the day, to me, I agree with what you said about Campbell. To me, he did back off his aggression a little bit there. But my two people that I think cost this game the most was Goff and Ben Johnson. Because you get the ball back, you have the ball back with 20-something seconds, you got a chance to get a touchdown, and you're still throwing short routes. You didn't even take one shot in the end zone. And to me, the play call. We did not run the ball enough. I don't know why we were throwing so much through that game. I mean, last week in OT, he sends Montgomery from the 40 all the way to the house, back-to-back plays. This week, it's just, let's throw the ball to J-Mo, and then when J-Mo goes cold, let's pound St. Brown, and we forgot, Laporta existed.
Laporta's been getting a lot of double coverage, or he has not been getting open. When he does get open quickly, it feels like the pressure is getting to Jared Goff, so he can't get the ball out of his hands quick enough to get it to him. As far as Tampa Bay is concerned, I mean, they played a smart brand of football. They ran when they needed to run. They passed when they needed to pass. They were very I won't say they were aggressive or anything, but I tell you what they were patient. It's like after playing against Detroit in the playoffs last year, I think something that, and I hope this isn't the case, I think they kind of have the design, which is be patient against Detroit because their aggression and the way they play is going to work against them, and they will make a mistake if you just wait around long enough for them to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the way they played this game. Yeah. I thought that Baker is showing because, he did not get the ball down the field to Mike Evans almost this whole game. It was Godwin underneath. And it just felt like, that if they took their time and worked their way down the field, something was going to open up offensively, and on defense, Goff or somebody was going to make a mistake. So I think it was the Buccaneers' patience that won that game.
And the two picks from Goff, it was a cherry on the top.
Making mistakes.
And, but other than that, I'm not worried. Lions were here last year, 1-1. It's a long season. Offense got to be better. I expect them to be better next game. And I'm excited to see what Tampa does. I think Tampa could definitely take the division.
Want to catch up on our comments here from Ron. I agreed. Baltimore fans are crazy for calling for Harbaugh's head after 2 weeks. The dude's giving you 10-plus years of excellent coaching. That's just stupid. That's people getting hysterical and fanatical about crap. The Raiders are a gritty team. Laughing at the Cowboys, that's funny. I agree. New Orleans looks like the real deal. We'll find out. I mean, it's still early in the season. A lot of these teams, because of the way the preseason is structured now and the way they don't play their players, it takes a few weeks for us to find out who some of these teams really are. And then you got injuries that have cropped up here early, and we'll get to a couple more that happened this weekend. But, I just Tampa Bay, they did enough to win. Uh-oh. I lost all my comments. Anyway.
I got his last comment right here His last comment says, are the Browns kicking themselves now for letting a QB like that go for a garbage QB? I think so.
No, because they've got two other quarterbacks on their roster, that could come in and do the job, and the Browns won. Okay, the Browns won this week, and we'll get to that in a couple games. Let me come back to that in a minute, okay? Let's go to totally surprised that the Packers won the game on the strength of running for over 200 yards. Okay. I thought without an experienced starting quarterback, the Colts played really well against the Houston Texans in week 1. Granted, it was at home, and the way that they were playing and the guys that they had playing for them, the new guys that they brought in, I thought the Colts were going to handle the Packers in Green Bay. But because their defense played so well and the running game just kind of went crazy, Malik Willis didn't have to do a whole hell of a lot except manage the football game, and he did a good job of doing that, and that's why the Packers won. Anything to say about this game here before we go to the Browns?
No, I was actually kind of shocked, just like you kind of were. But you know what I mean. Good for Malik, but you're not going to get that kind of runs, like that
every week. But that it just goes that they made a really smart investment by bringing in Josh Jacobs. I didn't think he played particularly well in the first half against the Eagles, and then he started to come along. If he'd have played a little better in the first half, I think Green Bay could have beat the Eagles in Brazil. But, every game's a little different. It's matchups. You may be great against a certain team and the next week look like dog shit. And so, it's all about the matchups and who you're playing, certain, offensive versus defensive line alignments and things. And that gets us to the Cleveland Browns, who beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars had the Miami game well in hand, but as we could see from week 2 results, even playing in Miami, they looked terrible against Buffalo, so we don't know what we're getting with Jacksonville. Jacksonville has lost a lot of games, with Trevor Lawrence starting both, these 2 games and several other games at the end of last season when they had the lead in the division and they basically gave it away. They're the AFC version of the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? The Eagles had a big lead in their division and blew it. The Jags had a big lead in their division and then they blew it, and Houston ended up with the not only the division, but Jaguars didn't make the playoffs, okay? Well, the Browns did make the playoffs, and they did just enough in this game on the road in Jacksonville to win. And we were talking about, the other quarterbacks. They've got Jameis Winston as the backup, which I know everybody wants to give him such a hard time for throwing 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in his final year as a starter in Tampa Bay. But that was all coaching and the system that they were running on offense. Tom Brady could manage that kind of system because he'd been a starter for a lot longer, had a lot more experience. But for Jameis Winston, the whole no risk it, no biscuit ended up with the 30 interceptions. Now, I think they run a much better offense in Cleveland, and if they turned it over to Winston, I think that they're going to make the playoffs if they do that. But Deshaun Watson was, starting again. They did not put him on the, commissioner's exempt list or anything for this newest allegation. But this person is going to meet with NFL security sometime soon, and that may change his status as the starter with Cleveland. I'm not worried at all if they bring in Jameis Winston, and then they've got Dorian Thompson-Robinson or whatever his name is the third stringer there. Yeah. Does that sound right, Chris?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. He's a good backup. He's not starting material, but he is a good backup. He's a young player who just needs to continue to grow and learn. And he's got a couple of veterans in front of him, and maybe he'll learn something and be a viable option one day. But really disappointed in Jacksonville here, playing at home. They had the game in hand last week until Travis Etienne fumbled the ball going into the end zone against Miami. They ended up blowing that one. I thought Jacksonville was going to, they just needed a nice touchdown drive, but he's still getting familiar with all these new receivers. The only guy he can really count on that he knows is Christian Kirk. They lost Evan Ingram, their tight end, before the game even started. And so tight end is a weakness on the team right now. They didn't run Tank Bigsby at all when they had him and ATN splitting carries last week. And so I think Jacksonville's just really confused about who their playmakers are and, how to best utilize them. And so it may take another week or so before they get back on the track that I thought they were going to be on this year, which is making it back to the playoffs.
Yeah, Jacksonville needs to figure out what's going on because, they had that one good year where they made the playoffs. Last year started off good, ended up terrible, and this year is not looking good for them at all.
We get to San Francisco and Minnesota. Okay. I picked San Francisco to win this game. I'm a Viking fan and everything, but I'm like, you know what? We were playing the Giants, and we were playing in New York. But Sam Darnold is playing really well. I think he has the structure and the players around him to showcase the kind of player people thought he was when he was drafted by the Jets in the first round. Okay. He's got good running backs. He's got awesome receivers. He will have an all-pro tight end before the season is out. I think that the J.J. McCarthy going down in the preseason is probably a godsend for Sam Darnold. They beat the 49ers last year with Kirk Cousins. Now they beat the 49ers this year, with Sam Darnold. The defense for Brian Flores has speed. They turn the ball over. They attack. They get pass rush. And the 49ers, they can run the ball with anybody. They had Jordan Mason again. No Christian McCaffrey. He was placed on IR this last week, and he'll be out for 4 weeks. And now we find out that Deebo Samuel is hurt, and he's going to miss a couple of weeks. And so San Francisco is basically going to be relying on the replacement running back, Kittle and Ayuk. But luckily, they've got Juwan Jennings. I don't know how many more weeks it'll be before gunshot victim Ricky Pearsall comes back and can play. But I bet he plays before Deebo or Christian McCaffrey do. And so, just big surprise here. I'm glad that the Vikings won, but the 49ers looked vulnerable in this game, and it surprised me, Chris.
Yeah, it definitely surprised me. I took the 49ers. I bet that was my one spread bet. I also took a parlay for Aaron Jones to get a rushing touchdown, and the 49ers stood the win by 5. And, yeah, that did not happen. Neither of them happened.
So I had a 4-game underdog parlay, and I had a 3-game underdog parlay. And so I am watching the Seahawks and Patriots and the Giants in Washington at the same time, and both teams blow it at the end. I had New Orleans. I had Minnesota. I had the Jets. And then I had New England. And New England blows it at the end when they had the lead. And then in my three, I had New Orleans, Cleveland, and Washington. Washington wins the game because the New York Giants don't have an emergency kicker. Nobody on their team can kick extra points or field goals, and their kicker went down on the opening kickoff. They had the game won with a minute to play if they could have kicked a field goal, but they had to go for it on 4th down and 4, turned it over on downs. Washington gets into field goal range and kicks the field goal to win the game. I know I'm skipping ahead here, but I'm so disappointed because I had these bets, that was going to be worth a pretty penny, both of them, because I picked all underdogs. And the underdogs had it won until the very bitter end. They just blew it. Seattle played a tough game on the road. New England has looked pretty good defensively. They're doing just enough offensively to hang in here in games. Their running game pretty much beat the Bengals last week, but it couldn't beat the Seahawks. They needed the passing game from New England, and New England couldn't get anything going in the passing game. Charbonnet led the running game for Seattle because Kenneth Walker is hurt and expected to be out for a couple of weeks. And then, I already gave you the breakdown on the New York-Washington game. Did you manage to see the Jets-Titans game at all, Chris?
I did watch a little bit of it. Yes, I did. I had all my running backs except fucking Pollard hit for touchdowns. So I made sure I watched the end of that game because I was just like, come on, get Pollard in the end zone, and I win. $395, but nope. Of course, it came down to the wire. It didn't happen.
Yeah, Will Levis is a turnover machine for the Titans. They have weapons at the receiver. They have weapons at tight end. They've got a running game, and their offensive line should be good enough for them to get some victories this year. But they had Chicago last week, and they had the Jets this week, and they turn it over with Levis, throwing stupid interceptions or just fumbling the ball away for no apparent reason, and lost both these games. The Jets, who looked decimated, and really, I would say the defense was despondent after the first 2 drives against the 49ers the previous week. They came to play in this game, okay? They came to play in this game. They're not as good as they were the previous year. I think they've lost some depth. Of course, they don't have, Rashawn Reddick has not signed a contract. He's sitting out. And I love watching these posts that people put all the time, especially Adam Schefter. Okay. Hassan Reddick is forfeiting so much money for not playing. And Hassan Reddick is, going to be fined so-and-so amount of money. And I want to explain this to everybody that's watching. This holdout is costing Hassan Reddick nothing, okay? He hasn't played for them, and he hasn't taken in any checks or any money from them. The only way they can take money away from him is if he either signs a new contract and all the fines will come out of that, or he comes back and plays for them, in which case he'll be issued a check that doesn't have all the money that he's got coming to him. It will be, he'll get fined out of one of the checks, if he comes and plays. Until then, it costs him nothing but time and opportunity, okay? He is not forfeiting anything. He is not necessarily being fined anything because he's not there, and they can't take any of the money that he has already earned. Okay, the only thing they could get from him, and this is if he never plays again, is a portion of his signing bonus when he signed his previous contract.
Yeah, because his contract
and that would have to go through an arbiter before they could do that. So, Reddick's got all the fucking leverage right here. If he doesn't want to come back and play, he doesn't have to. And I think if the defense continues to perform poorly, because they're not getting enough pass rush and they're not making enough tackles in the middle of the field, Reddick's going to get a call and he's going to get the deal he wants. Then they could say they fined him and took out money or whatever. But until then, it's costing him nothing.
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers looked okay in the game. He obviously cannot bootleg or run around like he used to. But for the most part, he's still got his arm. And when he gets the time to get the ball out, he can make plays. Skipping down to the Rams at the Cardinals, and this one stunned the shit out of me. There was a reason the Arizona Cardinals played so well against Buffalo in the first half of last week's game in Buffalo, but they didn't get the ball to Marvin Harrison at all in week 1. They got the ball to Marvin Harrison in week 2, and that really opened up the offense. The Cardinals were able to run on the Rams. They were able to make some deep shots, some big plays. The Rams looked lost on offense, to be honest with you. They turned the ball over, and then, of course, they were out without Puka Nacua, and now Cooper Kupp is hurt also. And so they're going to have to turn to the likes of Demarcus Robinson to be their number one wide receiver. They need to run the football more. I didn't see hide nor hair of Blake Corum. They're using a lot of Kyron Williams, and he got stuffed at the line so many times in this game. Arizona, I mean, maybe it was just they had the Rams number, but they looked really good, Chris.
Yeah, and I don't know what the Rams are doing with Blake Corum because he would have helped your running game out. I guarantee it.
Steelers defense, still Steelers defense. They go into Denver. Bo Nix, check down Charlie. Just dropping it off. They did get one super long pass, but it was basically on a reverse flea flicker type style play. Corum shot it way down the field and made a big play. That was Bo Nix shot it down the field and made a big play. And that was the whole entirety of the game, okay? And the Denver Broncos finally got on the board in the fourth quarter with their first field goal, managed to come back with another field goal, and were in position to possibly tie the game up. And they just ran out of time. Justin Fields is doing just enough to keep them in the games and not blow it for a team that's running the football and playing solid defense. Yeah. And they're playing against inferior competition right now. But when they get up against somebody that has a real offense, then we're going to see who the Steelers really can be when they're forcing Justin Fields to actually play some real quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm hoping we get to see that. I'm hoping what's his name's not back before that happens.
Crazy game. Of course, the refs helped out the Kansas City Chiefs again, which is bullshit. I love how social media, Facebook, you name it, all these people have, dissect every single play so they could say the referees didn't call this, the referees didn't call that, and they should have never called that play, and and it just completely the worst game I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes play. He didn't throw for over 150 yards. He had 2 interceptions in the game. Now, he did have a super long pass for a touchdown to Rashee Rice. And the next time they ran that play with Xavier Worthy, Mr. I've got 4.2 speed, he didn't outrun the defender, and the defender was right behind him. I don't know if you would consider it an underthrow by Mahomes or what, but he made an outstanding interception, one-handed interception. on the play. The Bengals always play the Chiefs tough. I thought they had them beat a couple different times, but the defense did it again. They turned the ball over, for Joe Burrow fumbling, and they get a touchdown to Chamari Connor. And then at the end, there was penalties on the Chiefs and penalties on the Chiefs. Nobody fucking says anything about all the penalties that come on the Chiefs. They were at 4th and 6 at the end of the game. Big play, call back holding. Come back, do it again. 4th down again and forever. Play again. The guy obviously ran into the back of the receiver. The ball would have been catchable if he wasn't pushed forward while he was in midair. Pass interference, clear as day. Got him into field goal range. And with the misses by Justin Tucker from 50 this year, Harrison Butker's the best kicker in football. Kansas City wins the game 26-25. But they've got a lot of work to do if they want to get back to a third Super Bowl, because the offense did not look good this time, and they've got injuries now. Of course, they've been missing Hollywood Brown. He has yet to play for the Chiefs for real. And now Isaiah Pacheco broke his leg down near his ankle, his fibula, and is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. So he's out for half the season. So today, even though they've got Carson Steele, the alligator man, who fumbled the ball in the game, and they brought in Samaje Perine, the former Denver Bronco, before the season began, they're going to go with Kareem Hunt, a former Kansas City Chief, brought in. He spent 5 years with the Cleveland Browns, and it's been a long time since he played in Andy Reid's system. Of course, he was barred from the team and released after a domestic violence incident 5 years ago that he lied to the team about. And so I guess necessity is the enemy of, whatever you want to call it. They need a running back. He's probably the best one that's out there and available. There's a chance he'll pick the system right back up and will be available for this week. We'll have to wait and see what Andy Reid's press conference is throughout the week. But they're playing Sunday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons, and it'll be very interesting to see how they go from here. Cincinnati's playing against Washington in Cincinnati. Any thoughts on this game at all, my friend?
Yeah, I kind of felt like it's a game I just I pay attention to, on my phone. It was a crazy game. It's kind of surprising that the Bengals are 0-2 right now. But, for some reason, the Bengals always start 0-2. But I'm kind of waiting to see, because there's been a lot of hype. To me, they've been hyped up to not a whole lot, but there's been a hype building about Joe being back. But we haven't seen it yet. That offense looks way worse.
Chase cost him 15 yards because he's mad because he didn't get some call. And they haven't been with T. Higgins. Of course, they lost Tyler Boyd in the offseason. And so they have a depleted and basically new receiving core besides, Chase, who's disgruntled because he doesn't have a contract.
Yeah.
They're missing Joe Mixon more than I think they thought they would. They need to give the ball more to Chase Brown instead of Zach Moss. They've got Moss as the number one back, but Chase Brown is the guy who is explosive. He reminds me of Tony Pollard when he gets the ball.
Yeah. I don't know. They really need to figure it out, that's for sure.
Well, Chicago Bears at the Houston Texans. I thought Caleb Williams looked better in this game. The defense is still playing very hard. The Texans went away from Stephon Diggs and featured Nico Collins in this game. And Mixon played really well, but there was a point in time in the game where it looked like he had been injured. He got twisted and all screwed around, and he's got himself a bit of an ankle injury, but he did come back into the game. I haven't heard anything else about that, but they are supposed to be running some more tests to make sure he's going to be fine. And at the end of the game, I saw a clip of C.J. Stroud talking to Caleb Williams, telling him, hey, don't take those hits. Don't take those hits where he's running around. He told him to get down, learn from his mistakes, and he'll be a hell of a player in the league. And Caleb looked like he didn't want to have nothing to say or even listen to him and ran off, after he said, okay, yeah, thanks, and then took off. Like he had no interest in discussing, his performance with a fellow quarterback. So, that's just egotistical to me. I had high hopes that Caleb's going to be a good player. I've seen the Mahomes-esque plays that he can make, and he did well in the first half, but in the second half, he basically reverted back to last week where his footwork was poor, he was inaccurate, and it's like he felt the rush coming and had to scramble and get out of there as soon as he could. He couldn't just sit in the pocket, wait for somebody to get open and deliver the football in a timely fashion. He held the ball too long, and he's looking for the big play on every play instead of just taking what the defense would give him.
Yeah. To me, it was a good game. I enjoyed watching it. Caleb, he did look a little bit better from the week before, but he still got you left to go. He got to stop running around with that ball. Be faster, getting the ball away, make smarter decisions. And the Texans look good, but Bears defense, I'm not going to lie, is legit. That Bears defense really kept my thought in check for the most part of the day, except a couple big plays.
Monday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons at the Philadelphia Eagles, and I thought this was a fun game to watch. It went back and forth until the very end. Philadelphia had control of this game, the majority of the game, and I don't watch the Manning cast, but from what I've been told, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and Matt Ryan are all saying, oh, they're not going to throw the ball. They need to run the ball here. It'll run 40 seconds off the clock. Then you can go ahead and kick the field goal if you want to, or you could go for it because you'll be closer than 3 yards away. And that'll make them drive the entire length of the field. And instead of doing that, they went and throwed the ball, and it was a good, solid play. Saquon Barkley dropped it. It was right in his hands. He'd have easily got the first down. They'd have run out the clock, and the Eagles would have beat the Atlanta Falcons. But they gave the Falcons another chance. The Eagles' defense folded up store like it was a small town, quickie mart at 8 o'clock, and just let them waltz right on down the field as quick as they could. And Kirk Cousins, who's not known to win primetime games, hits Drake London for the touchdown to seal the deal. And, so I'm real disappointed in the coaching, the execution by the Eagles. They did not commit to continuing to run the ball when Saquon Barkley was getting 9 and 10 yards of crack on a drive, and then they threw it 3 straight and ended up punting on a drive early in the game. Okay? Run the football. That's why you brought Saquon Barkley in. I loved it when Jalen Hurts started taking off and running with the ball because it reminded me of the year they went to the Super Bowl. But you got to pick your spots when to do that. Now, they didn't have A.J. Brown to start the game, and so that meant that the other players on the team were going to have to step up, but I thought Devontae Smith played great. They had it's either a third wide receiver or a tight end whose last name starts with a C. He played really well. And, Saquon did good for the most part, up until the very end. But the play calling, I didn't like the play calling, and that's Kellen Moore's fault. And the defense folded up shop late in the fourth quarter, and that's Vic Fangio's fault. And those are the two new coordinators that Sirianni has attached his job to. And they better get their shit straight, here soon. Because if it continues to be like this after them folding up last year, he's going to get fired.
Yeah.
As for Atlanta, they looked much better that they weren't playing against the Pittsburgh defense. And Kirk Cousins, who didn't do any plays from under center in week one, was almost exclusively under center in the first half. And I think that he heard a lot of talk in the media that they didn't do that they hadn't been using enough motion. They did both of those things, and it worked well for them. And overall, I thought this was a fun game to watch. I just didn't like the result at the end.
Yeah. It was a fun game. You give it up to Atlanta. They won a close one. And to me, that's really big for Kirk Cousins and his confidence, I think.
So now we're going to talk about the Week 3 slate of games and get our early week predictions in. Thursday night football is a battle in the AFC East between the New England Patriots and the New York Jets. And it's actually, it's New England at New York. The way that New England has been playing defense, I think they're playing much better than the Jets defensively right now. On a short week, I think that they've got a lot more film, New England does, on the way the Jets do things than the Jets do on the way New England's doing it, because they've got some different, they got a different offense there. But I like the Jets to win this game.
I'm going to take the
Patriots. Who do you like, Chris?
I'm going to take the Patriots.
Patriots, okay.
Yep.
New York Giants, I hope they sign a kicker. I hope they get a kicker. They need to be able to kick a field goal. I thought Daniel Jones played a lot better against Washington, but Washington's a mediocre team. Cleveland's got, a good running game. They got good receivers. Overall, I think they're the better team, and they're playing at home. I'll take Cleveland in game 2.
I'll take Cleveland too. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to maybe give that game up.
You mean Cleveland?
Yeah. Or no, Cleveland give it up to Giants.
To the Giants? Yeah. Chicago Bears, Indianapolis Colts. This is a tough one. The Colts played really well week 1, didn't win. I didn't think they played well at all against Green Bay and lost that one. The biggest concern or thing that I want to point out, if I was trying to help Chicago, is you're not getting the ball in the hands of Devontae Swift enough. Okay? Run the football, do some toss sweeps, run some screen passes. They never ran a screen pass the whole time, in the game. Either week, run a screen pass. Draws, screens, utilize your really good running backs so you can set up play action and get the ball to your good receivers. It'll open things up and allow more time for Caleb so he doesn't feel like he's about to get killed every time he goes back to pass. For Indianapolis, you better be able to stop the run this week. You didn't stop it against Green Bay. And if Chicago sees the film and decides to run, I think the same thing's going to happen to fucking Indianapolis this week that happened to them last week. I'm going to take Chicago in this game because I really believe they're going to learn their lesson from what has happened the last 2 weeks. They're going to get better and better as the season goes on.
Yeah, agreed. I want to say the Colts win this game, but I think the Bears can win this game because if Richardson runs the ball too much, that defense is going to eat him alive.
I think Houston is a superior team to Minnesota. I love the Vikings. I'd love to see them win this game, especially since they just beat San Francisco. If they go to 3-0, holy shit, they'll be the talk of the league, okay, with Sam Darnold at quarterback. But I think that I love that we're playing this game at home because of our defense and the crowd, and I think we could give them some fits. But I think at the end, I think it'll be a really close game, but I think Houston wins it on a field goal near the end of the game.
I think Houston wins this one.
Philadelphia and New Orleans. Okay, just based on what I saw last week, I'm taking the Saints, baby. Okay? They can run the football down their throat. Okay? When Green Bay started to run the ball against Philadelphia in Brazil, Green Bay made some big-ass plays. And I think that, you know, the way that they're playing offense, I know they're going to have a lot more film on them now that they played Dallas. And Vic Fangio is an excellent defensive coordinator. But they feel like they're shorthanded defensively in Philly. And, you know, their offense – this is going to be another tight game. I think it's going to be another tight game. Philadelphia, I think, is a little embarrassed about the way Monday Night Football ended. And generally a team that gets embarrassed against a team that's riding high, this would be a good underdog, take the Eagles underdog bet if they are positioned as an underdog, on DraftKings or FanDuel or something. Bet on the Eagles to win, like $5, but don't throw more than that on it because I really believe the Saints can win this game.
I believe the Saints can win, but I believe the Eagles are going to come out and make a statement. But I would laugh my ass off if the Saints steamroll the Eagles. Just because a lot of Eagle fans have been talking a lot of shit about them steamrolling Dallas. So It's just kind of funny to be like, what you got to say now? Because your team got steamrolled too.
The Chargers stayed out east. They played at Carolina. They went up to West Virginia, and they are staying out east this week. Justin Herbert finally found Quentin Johnston, okay? He's got him a number one receiver. They're running the ball with authority with J.K. Dobbins, who's managed to stay healthy to this point. But they haven't played against a defense like Pittsburgh's. I don't know if Pittsburgh can put up the kind of offense they're going to need to win the game. I know their defense could play, lights out, and they're going to give the Chargers some trouble. And they're playing in Pittsburgh. But I don't have any faith in their offense to do anything.
Yeah.
But I'm scared to pick the Chargers because I think the Steelers can win this game defensively. If they get to Herbert, he will fumble the ball. He will throw an interception. They could strip Najee Harris, or not Najee Harris, but J.K. Dobbins. They'll hurt Dobbins, and then they'll have to turn to Gus Edwards, who doesn't have the speed and elusiveness. He's more of the bruising back, and it'll be all downhill from there. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I'm taking Pittsburgh.
I'm going to take the Chargers.
I think this is an easy call, the way Tampa Bay has been playing. Denver has got the rookie quarterback, and they're going to have growing pains because they don't have anybody to throw the ball to. Okay? They really don't. They're scared to throw the ball down the field. Their defense will keep them in it, but I'm going to take the Buccaneers to win.
I'm taking the Bucs.
Well, I just don't see any way Green Bay can run for 200 yards against Tennessee. I know Malik Willis will feel a sense of kind of revenge to play his old team in Tennessee. I think the only way Green Bay wins this game is if Will Levis just hands the fucking ball to him. If he doesn't hand them the ball and they run well and they play solid offense, Tennessee's defense can hold off anything that Green Bay throws at them. I'm going to take the Titans in this matchup.
I'm taking the Titans too.
Andy Dalton's going to start for Carolina. The Raiders are going to be playing at home. And I think it's their home opener. I got to take the Raiders. The Carolina's the worst team in the NFL. I mean, Carolina may put up some points, but I don't think it's going to be enough to overcome the Raiders in Las Vegas. So I'll take the Raiders.
I'll take the Raiders too.
Uncertainty at quarterback is the whole key to this game. Now, that's kind of the same thing that happened with Green Bay and Indianapolis this last week. Is Miami going to run the ball to death on Seattle? I don't think they're going to. I still think Mostert's out. They got a couple of good running backs. They got to utilize the short passing game, get it quickly to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and let them get yards after the catch. It's probably going to be Skylar Thompson against Geno Smith and the Seahawks. It's a long flight from Miami to Seattle. I'm going to take the Seahawks to win the game.
I'm going to take the Seahawks as well.
Lions coming off of, I'm not going to call it an embarrassing loss, just a really tough loss to a team that had their number on Sunday against Arizona, who's played well at Buffalo, and then destroyed the Rams in Arizona. I think this will be a fun game to watch, and you're not going to like what I have to say. I think that it'll be a tight game, but because they're playing in Arizona, I like Arizona in this game. I think that the Cardinals discovered something offensively last week. The Rams generally have a decent defense. And, it may have just been, one of those games where you throw a pile of shit at the wall and see what sticks type of thing. But I don't think that's the case. I watched that game while we were watching some of the other games, and every time that Arizona had the ball, they moved it with authority. They ran it well. Kyler Murray scrambled out of the pocket when he needed to. He made big play after big play down the field. And now that they've got Marvin Harrison involved, you're going to see Detroit have to double team him. That's going to open up some of the underneath passing. They'll be able to, run some guys downfield and then have them come back on some running plays. I think we'll see some screens out of Arizona. I think Detroit will rebound offensively this week. But this is one of those games that's going to be like 32-31, and I'll take Arizona.
I'm taking Detroit. I think we bounce back and beat Arizona. I think our defense is going to come in hot. I'm not too worried about Harrison. He is a rookie. I believe our secondary is good enough to shut him down or at least keep him contained for the most part of the afternoon. I expect us to bounce back fully on both sides of the ball.
I think Baltimore was embarrassed. I think Dallas was embarrassed. And
I don't know who to pick here.
I think both teams have something to prove. I think that both guys can run the ball, Lamar Jackson especially. I think that, like I said before, Derrick Henry has a hard time running the ball out of the shotgun. I think you'll see a lot more of even their passing game, because it'll telegraph it if he's under center every time that they're running the ball. But they can use play action doing that. Huh?
Phoenix. Ron said all of his Lions crew is going to Phoenix for the game Sunday. So I was asking, does that include him?
Hope so. That'd be great. Like I said, as far as Baltimore goes, more play action passing. Okay. Run the ball from the I formation under center instead of out of the shotgun. You'll do a lot more. You'll do a lot better, running the football. I think that the Cowboys' reaction is going to be to attack defensively. Run blitz almost every time. And if Henry doesn't get the ball, get to Lamar Jackson. And because of that, I'm going to take Dallas to rebound and win this game.
I'm going to go roll with Dallas too. Oh, damn. Sorry to hear that. Right?
No Puka Nakua. Probably no Cooper Kupp. They'd have to lean on the running game. I like San Francisco's defense against the running game. I'll take the 49ers to rebound against the Rams.
I'll take the 49ers. And then real quick, what I was going to say about Dallas is I'm taking Dallas just because I don't trust Lamar Jackson's head right now.
Yeah. Sunday Night Football on NBC. Kansas City Chiefs go on the road for their first game to go on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. Come off a big win against Philadelphia. And so, kind of a short week for Atlanta. And Kansas City saw a lot of things that they had, problems that they had against Cincinnati. I don't think Atlanta can play Cincinnati's style of defense. They're not built to stop Kansas City that way. It'll be interesting to see what kind of workload each of the running backs get. The Chiefs are still going to be without Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the next couple of weeks. We may see Samaje Perine start the game, and they'll mix in Carson Steele, and they'll bring Kareem Hunt along slowly because I'm sure he's not in game shape. He wasn't in anybody's camp. But they need to run the football. And but I think that after watching this, the game against Philadelphia, I think Kansas City should win this game. Even if they don't have a great running game, I think Kansas City should win this game comfortably.
I'm going to go with Kansas City, but I'm secretly pulling for Atlanta.
Well,
I just don't have that much faith.
That's just you trying to dig at me. When you actually pick against your team one of these weeks, that will be the stunner because you'll never pick against them. So, you're how should I call that? It's not confidentiality. I'll come back to this word when I think about it.
Hey, we have shows where I've been 50-50 in the Lions matchups.
Yeah, but never not 50-50 or better. Yeah.
No, I'm always going to hold faith that my team's going to win the percent.
Jacksonville versus Buffalo, okay, on Monday night. It's a Monday night doubleheader, which I hate. Unless, if they did this kind of like the red zone and they had, whoever's in position to do something, became the main game and they could swap back and forth with one person kind of overseeing both sets of games.
Well, you two
would be great. But instead, you've got, one team on ABC doing the Jacksonville-Buffalo game and one team on ESPN doing the Washington-Cincinnati game.
Well, that's why you get YouTube TV. And
My favorite two Monday night. Well, I mean, you can have, well, whatever. Anyway, what I was going to say is that I don't like the way Jacksonville has been playing, and I don't think they're going to get their shit together in Buffalo. Buffalo should win this game. And then Washington lost in Tampa Bay, where they played so-so in their first game, and they were lucky to beat the Giants in their second game. I'll take Cincinnati. Both the home teams on Monday night.
I'll take Cincy as well.
Ron's being funny, said something about these are my two favorite Monday night games. Not really. They always have what I will call Jacksonville stuns Buffalo. That would be great. I would like that. I want to see Buffalo lose. Like I don't need the commercials and can switch back and forth. That's right. Yeah, Cincy. Okay, so just
and I don't know if you know on YouTube TV when you're watching them and they got all the games in the corner. If I don't know if you knew, but if you click on one of them, like if you click on, like say the Bengals, say you're doing it for the Bengals Monday night. If you click on the Bengals game, it'll go into a big screen and it'll just be the Bengals game.
Yeah, we've been doing that.
I didn't know if you figured that out because I figured that out.
Yeah, no. Well, and if you highlight whichever game you're highlighted, that's where your volume is.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So I mean, I'm thinking that with YouTube TV, like you said, they have multi-view, even though they're considered technically a local game and a what would be considered a cable game. I think you could still have both of the screens on there and just go back and forth with the volume to decide who you want to see. Yeah. And we may do that because my buddy gave me his code because he's been coming over every Sunday, and we've been watching it together. And so I will try and see if that works on Monday night. If it doesn't, then I'll just have to be on Hulu Live Plus TV and be on the one. And when I decide to flip over, I'll just go last channel. And it switches quick enough where it doesn't have to think about it or whatever.
Because every time I've been on my YouTube TV and football's been on multiple games, they've always had that option. And then, like I said, you click it and then you get the audio. But if you click it again, it'll go to just that game. You know what I'm saying? I knew you could switch to audio, but I didn't know you could do that until last Sunday. I was messing around. I ear streamed it from my phone onto my buddy's TV.
Right.
And we were watching it that way, and I hit my screen, and all of a sudden it went to one of the games, a solo, and I'm like, what happened? And then when I backed out of it,
what happened?
But then as soon as I backed out, it went right back to the 4 games on the screen. So I thought it was pretty sweet.
Post Ron's, there we go. I think we need to keep watching injuries throughout the league. It's been a little bit more than normal, in my opinion. It's been about regular, but it's happening to these star players, and so when it happens to the star players, it gets a lot more, play from the media types and everything. Week 1, we had, Jordan Love. Now you got Tua. I got a buddy, Stanley Palmer. Hi to Stanley if he's watching. That those are his 2 quarterbacks in his fantasy league. He lost them both. And he's like, God damn it. And I was like, well, better find somebody else. Now, he had Purdy, I guess. He had 3 quarterbacks. It's a dynasty league where you got plenty of bench space. But, just each week early on, when it comes to fantasy, I've noticed you got a lot of players that are new to their team or they're rookies. They put up huge numbers, and then the next week, nothing. Yep. And then
Worthy got me.
that are even veterans that you expect at least to get an average amount of points from. And you're hit and miss. There's really no rhyme or reason. We don't know who the best offenses in the NFL are yet. We don't know who the best defenses in the NFL are yet. It's still too early to tell. We need at least 2 more weeks before we can literally start saying, hey, they're one of the best offenses in the league. This is the best defense. I mean, we've seen some that you could say, hey, yeah, that's a really good defense, or that's a really good offense. But they're playing against these teams that you're not sure if they're any good or not. And so it's part of the fun of playing out the season. I love this time of year. We're only a couple weeks in. It looks like we got a great slate of games coming up. Be sure to join me Thursday for Picks with David on both Facebook and YouTube. And then see me again either Saturday or Sunday morning when I do my full weekend slates of games. Chris, thanks a lot for hosting again. Any plans of doing an interview this week with someone?
Not right now. I need to get figure out a good day because Thursday night you got Thursday night football. So
that's got to be on Friday.
Yeah. So I want to figure it out. Talk to a few people, see if we can't set one up. And
hi, Jackie.
And remember, we're on Spotify as well. And tomorrow at midnight, this episode will drop on Spotify. So if you missed the broadcast, go look us up on Spotify. The link is on our page as well.
Well, it should be immediately available on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's immediately available on YouTube.
Post the link for YouTube in case anybody missed it and they want to start over tonight. And if you don't have time tonight, then you can catch Spotify or YouTube tomorrow.
Exactly. I'll share our link right now.
Anyway, other than that, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Another good week of football coming up. Appreciate you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, like the video on Facebook. Follow along with 4th and Goal Sports. My man Chris right there. And you can friend me on Facebook so you don't miss any of my picks throughout the NFL season.
Exactly. Follow us both on Facebook.
You got anything else, Chris?
No, I do not, guys. That's it.
Bam!
Thank you guys for joining us. I'm glad we were able to get the show off tonight because I thought I had a tooth pulled like 2 weeks ago. And
I wasn't feeling great a couple hours ago, but I'm okay now.
I thought I had dry socket because I've been vaping. So I'm like, my mouth was hurting so bad today. I don't even know how I made it at work. And I went in, and they're like, well, you don't got dry socket because your other one's fully healed. But the dentist is like, but the tooth right above is the one that's is giving you trouble. I guarantee that. And,
thanks, Ron. We appreciate it, buddy, and thank you for all your comments throughout the podcast.
Have a good night, Ron. And so today at 4:00, I had a tooth that I did not plan on having get pulled today, and I'm just like, thankfully, because before, if I didn't go, I didn't know how I was going to do the show because I had to keep cold water in my mouth just to keep the pain bearable.
I thought you were talking with a lisp the whole time.
No, I just have a piece of gauze in my mouth from where they pulled it.
Sure, it's gauze.
I promise you, I don't want to gross our audience out, or I would show you.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Have a good night. We'll see you back here for next Tuesday Night Spectacular. Well, we'll recap week number 3 and preview week 4 in the National Football League.
Sounds good. I'm going to drop the link to Spotify as well. So that way you guys can find that too. And you guys all have a good night. We'll see you next Tuesday. I feel you, Ron. I've always done that, buddy. And I've never had an issue. So when this happened, I just assumed that's what it was. And it wasn't. It was another two. So thank God. I'm out of pain now. So, but anyways, you guys, have a good night. Remember, you can find us Twitch, YouTube. Links for YouTube's in the comments. Spotify too. This episode will be up live in the morning on Spotify. So click the link in the comments, click the follow, and then you'll find us on your home screen. Not a bad day, buddy. Not a bad thing after the dentist. But you have a good night. We're out of here. Good luck to all your teams. And have a good week. Stay safe, everyone.